Today I'm making another video. I know it's been a while, but there hasn't been too much for me to really make a video about. But now that this new update is out, I wanted to go over some of the things that come with it. Right off the bat, you can see it looks a little different, and I'll get into that a little later. So I'm just going to go through the list that I found on Twitter and go over each thing. The first thing is Cloud Save. So not much really to say about that, but that'll be good if your game crashes or your phone crashes or something like that. I don't know a whole lot about the cloud, but you'll be able to save it there. The second thing is the death system balance. Now for this, one thing that I noticed is that before the update, whenever you would die, your health would have to get back to 50% of the max in order for you to come back to life and start fighting again. But now it's much lower. I tried fighting the Leviathan, wasn't paying attention, and I ended up dying. And I came back to health with like 250 life points out of my 3,000 something health. So it's probably less than 10% now. So if you do end up dying, you will be able to get back into it pretty quick, which is a pretty nice update. The other thing too that I noticed is the damage dealt is a little different. And I saw this with the previous update as well, where they introduced new tiles, but basically some of the damage has changed slightly. It doesn't really affect too much, but I did notice a difference. For example, when I fought the Leviathan before the update, my critical hits were about 900 to 1,000, and now when I do critical damage on the Leviathan, I'm hitting anywhere from 1,100 to 1,300, and so that's increased. And I think there's a balance there, so it's not too much of like a change to what happens, but that's something that I did notice. The third thing I want to go over is the new way of blocking and then the nodes in the skill tree. Basically, this is just a new appearance of everything. So you can see if you click on your character, you don't have everything that you had before. You don't have your inventory or the map. Let's go into the skill tree first. The skill tree looks a little bit different. The way you got these 4 arrows pointing to whatever you're selecting. Me being fully maxed out, I'm not going to be in the skill tree too much. And then if you look on your main screen, in the top right you have your map, where you can click there to go somewhere. But if you click on the top right, the very top right, that's where you get to all the tiles. And in the lower right hand corner, you have all your inventory in your backpack, and you can click on the backpack to get into your inventory. So that's not too much of a change, but it does look nice. The other thing too that's pretty nice too is in the top left corner you can see everything that you normally wouldn't be able, that you'd have to click on a tab in order to see. And so here you have the level that you are, the experience you need to level up. What's really nice too is it shows you your combat, your art, your ranged, and your magic progression, which is really nice because that was something that I would always keep it on to look to see how it's coming along. So it's nice that you can see that there. The fourth thing I want to go over is the way that the ferry kind of works now. So if you click on the ferry, I really like this update because without paying for anything, the most you could get was the housekeeper ferry, which gave you 50% more experience and gave you the auto consumable. Now, being able to watch videos to get the other warrior ferry and the warlock ferry is actually pretty helpful. So let's start in the top left corner. You have these 4 little buttons. This does 2 things. One, it shows you what ferry you have out on your screen. So here's the homeless ferry. This is the housekeeper ferry, the warrior ferry, and the warlock ferry. The housekeeper ferry, as usual, gives you 50% increased experience for each enemy you kill, and it gives you the auto consumable. The warrior ferry gives you +1 training, which, to go over what +1 training is, if you look in my top left corner, whenever I kill something, the combat number goes up with +2. Normally, it would go up +1. It goes up +1 for each hit, but with that +1 training, you get 2. So basically, you're going to level up your combat and range twice as fast when you have that fairy active. Similarly, whenever you use magic, instead of going up 5 for each use, it's going to go up 10 for each use. So you can see that there. So the warrior fairy is very helpful, and I think probably the most helpful when you're at a high level, because experience isn't going to matter as much, but when you can level up your combat and ranged and magic, that's going to be very helpful. Lastly, you have the warlock fairy, which gives 50% more enemy gold. This is good maybe if you're starting out new, but I already have 6.5 million gold and don't know what to do with it, so it's not too important that I get that one. As far as the little symbols on the bottom of each fairy that it has, the best that I can tell is that just allows you to either click on the ones on the top left, or it just tells you that you have access to that fairy and the skills of that ability. So if anyone knows anything different about that, let me know, because I'm not entirely sure about that. The other thing that's really nice about this is that the bonuses, the video that you get, previously it would only give you 18 minutes, I believe, of bonus time. But here it gives you 30 minutes, which is nice because you don't have to watch as many ads in order to get all the stuff that you want. So that's a nice little perk. Now the other thing I want to go over is the cannon and the shield balance, the cannon arrow, the cannon bow. The cannon bow looks like this right here, cannon bow. Now, two things I noticed. One is that in the previous version of the game, the power on this was 14, and the range was still 3, but it didn't include the critical chance. So two things that they changed was they increased the power from 14 to 18, and they also added a marker to show how much critical damage or critical chance that it had. It's still 0, but the main thing to pull out of here is that the power of the cannon bow increased. The other thing that changed were shields. Shields were balanced to work a little better. Now, I only have the Elder Shield, so I'm only going to show it with this, but previously the shield was still the 14 for defense. However, the block previously was 12, and now it's up to 24. And so the block has increased, which makes shields a little bit more powerful. And something I've noticed too is that a lot of times the shield icon will come up to the left of my hero whenever there's a chance to block. And so I think that that's happening more often. And then the last thing I want to discuss that they changed too is they refreshed the skill reset on the skill tree. So basically, when you click on your center character, the top right, it says one-time skills reset. So if you want to, you can reset your skills again. Again, that's only useful for if you're a lower level player, and if you're curious about what to invest your skill points in, I have another video discussing that. But overall, that's all the changes pretty much that were made. I really like it. I think in terms of, short of coming up with more tiles to attack on, I think that this update is going to make the game run a lot smoother, and it'll be a lot easier to level up, especially leveling up the combat and ranged. So that's my take on everything. If you guys have any questions or comments, or if I said something wrong, let me know, and I'll try to fix that. But that's all for now.